Yeah, welcome, and thank you for obviously being here. The purpose of today is really just to run you through obviously setting up a new games development studio, covering off some points as to common trip hazards that we often see between us, and talking you through those so that basically similar mistakes aren't made again, sort of thing, you know. So yeah, if you, my name's Colin Powell, Business Development Manager at Performance Gaming. We cover everything from game development studios, publishers, those that are involved in games retail companies, you know, selling games, etc., and also those that are involved in buying and selling TCG. So that's kind of where I'm at. So,
hello, I am Abbygale Dunn, and I'm the founder and CEO of Astral Forge, a startup indie games company. I've just graduated, so I was in all of your positions last year, so I hope I can be of some help here.
And hi, I'm Rob Watson. I'm a solicitor at Collyer Bristow. We're a law firm based in London, and I am part of our games industry focus. So we advise game studios and publishers on all manner of agreements. I personally advise businesses on their major business life events, so setting up a company, attracting investment, buying other businesses, and then eventually selling those companies, hopefully in the future.
Cool. We will be taking questions at the end. So if you do want a question answered, then please do put up your hand. We'll leave sort of best part of 10 minutes towards the end for any questions that may wish to be asked. Abbygale, we'll start with you then, if I can. Obviously, you were here a year ago on this side of the fence. Really, what was your motivation for starting up a game studio almost immediately?
So for myself, I've always wanted to make games. It's the only thing I've ever wanted to do. But whenever I was younger and I'd thought about who I wanted to work for and what sort of games I wanted to make, I could just never see myself joining a studio and kind of being told what to make. And so for me, it always came down to wanting to make my own studio, make games that I want to share with audiences. And so I decided that that's exactly what I was going to do. And finishing uni right now is the best time to start the games, like into the games industry and start your own company, especially with the way the industry is at the moment. And so I just decided to take that leap one day, and here we are.
And as I understand it, you're working with friends at the moment in your business?
So all of my teammates are my friends who I met through uni, or friends of friends. We all studied here together. And we decided that when I proposed, hey, let's make a company instead of going and join the industry, they all decided that they wanted to take the risk with me. And we have done such good work so far and had so much fun. Doesn't mean to say it didn't come with its downsides, though. Friends are great, and you can trust them always. You know your friends, you know how they work. And it means you can usually work so well together. But when it comes to the hard times, they're your friends. You don't want to say, hey, I need you to pull your weight a bit more, or you don't want to say, hey, I need you to basically hand over your work and step away from the company. And so there's a lot of different things that you've got to take into consideration when working with your friends. Again, when you start up a company, you're not going to have the luxury of having loads of money to go and get people in the industry. So they are going to be your friends. These are considerations that you do have to make. And that's where things like contracts come in. Again, they're your friends. You don't want to give them a contract, but you have to protect yourself. Rob, you can talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, of course. And thanks, Abbygale, for the setup into the murky legal world of dull contracts. I think Abbygale's absolutely right. It's great to work with people you know, family and friends who you trust, but that can come with its risks when you're trying to wear two different hats. You're trying to be a friend and a colleague, but you're also trying to be a boss and you're trying to run a business. And it can be very difficult to reconcile those two things. And I think where you have an understanding formally between each other about what the expectations are, what you need to commit to the business to make it work, so you all feel that you're on a level footing going into this, that there's not going to be any doubts about how many hours you're going to put in a week, how often you're going to meet up, what the deliverables are in terms of your project and when you need to get it done. Because the unfortunate thing of working with friends and family is that when things do break down, they can really break down. And I've seen enough situations across all industries where people get very petty when it's a friendship that's breaking up at the same time as a business relationship. And Abbygale, I think you've done a fantastic job of trying to manage those relationships in running that business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it all comes with its ups and downs. I was housemates with people in my company that have now since left, and that could have been a really big downfall for the company. One thing that really set me up is getting IP protection contracts. No matter what work is made by who, it belongs to the company and not to them. So if they step away, you can still use that, along with shareholder agreements, things like that. These sort of contracts, you can get templates online and adjust them to how you need to, or the university, the business side of the university will help you with those. But it's really something you need to think about almost immediately when starting the company, because once you've built up your company, handing out these contracts is a lot more difficult to do. So it's definitely something to do as soon as possible, and just to start off on a good footing to build up and scale your company.
Sorry. Hello? Yeah, that's it, back on. Yeah, thank you for that. And, I wanted to touch on, just moving the conversation on slightly, just to pitching. Obviously, a new game studio, you're going to have had your fair share of investment meetings and things like that. So how have you found that? Obviously, it's quite daunting having to, sell your idea and your team and things like that, and you are sometimes asking for fairly substantial amounts of money to get your idea off the ground. Can you share a little bit of your insight on how you found those meetings and things like that?
Yeah, so for me personally, I have a degree in design and programming. I don't have any business knowledge apart from what I've gathered from starting this company. And so pitching was one of the most daunting things that I could possibly think about, especially because I am anxious at the best of times. So when it came to pitching, you'd think you need to go in really formally, and it's like you would with a job interview, but it's really not. These people want to hear about your idea. You wouldn't be pitching to them if they didn't. So think that as a great step already, is that once you get to the pitching stage, they are interested. And the best advice I can possibly give is to be yourself, try and relax, and just show your passion for your project. So many people go into pitches and they freeze up or they say things very bluntly, but no one wants to support a company where it doesn't seem like its founders really support it themselves. You need to show that passion and that drive to do what you want to do, and that's the biggest piece of advice I can give. Other than that, get pitching advice from anyone. The actual pitches themselves, everyone does it differently. There's loads of different feedback out there, but go to people who have done it before. Go to people like myself who have started up their own company, or people who maybe publishers that actually receive pitches. Everyone's willing to help you, and I promise you that. I haven't found a single person that's turned me down yet. But take on every advice you can, and just make it sure that you show yourself, your passion, and what your game is, and you will honestly do fine.
Yeah, it's a good point. And as I say, just on the pitching side of things as well, and just putting the insurance spin on it a little bit. Obviously, you're trying to get someone to invest in you and your ideas, and obviously the team behind you as well. Having your insurance in order can really help with your pitching as well. The angle on that is obviously if you've got a great idea and you're after this substantial amount of money, you have to ask yourself from the investor side of things, am I willing to give this person an X amount of money when they haven't got their insurances? When they haven't got their insurances in order. So things like professional indemnity insurance, if there are any professional errors or mistakes that you make along the way, if you haven't got that protected, that can be a big red flag to an investor as well. So it is just a case of, reach out to insurance specialists and, get those policies that can really help give you that side of things that, to an investor that makes you look like you're business savvy as well as just got a great concept that you want to follow through on. So I'd say, speak to us basically.
Just to add on to that, when it comes to showing your game at events, it's one of the best things that you can do. It's amazing to see your game come to life and see people play it. And when you start out, you're probably going to be showing it through different people. So for myself, I took the game to Protoplay with Transfuser, and I'm taking the game to EGX this weekend through Game Anglia. But next year, we're going to be looking at taking the game ourselves to these events, having our own full booth. And insurance is really an important thing to have in those situations. And showing investors and publishers that you do understand that you need the insurance and that you have it and you've already planned for it is one of the best ways for them to get your attention, because at that point they can tell that you are dedicated and you know your work.
And that goes to other forms of insurance as well, because if you're employing people in the business, it is a legal requirement that you have employers' liability insurance, which, I mean, how often do you find that people are well insured in the business, Colin?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point. And we have had a number of conversations with, in particular, indie startups where some of the fundamentals have gone missed, if I'm honest. So, yeah, you pick on a really good point there about employers' liability insurance. So, you know, if you are setting up your own game dev studio and you're going to have employees, it is a legal requirement that you have protection for those employees. As I say, that is a massive oversight. And public liability insurance as well. So you mentioned obviously going out and showcasing your games and going to various events. And whilst public liability insurance isn't a legal requirement, it may as well be. Very, very seldom can you go to a venue anywhere really now and they don't ask you for evidence of that insurance. So it's pretty much a staple of most policies now. But if you're not thinking about insurance, then you're not going to be having your public liability insurance, your employer's liability insurance, etc. There's another thing as well, particularly in the case of cyber insurance. There's this whole misconception that you're never going to be hacked. Hackers will send out multiple thousands of emails and just hope that they get that one bite. Now, when they're in your system, they can sit silent for a number of months, just sort of observing what you do and how you do it. And at any point, they can stick a ransom request on your files, basically, and block you from getting access to your system. And when you are spending 30 hours a week, if not more, you've got your whole team working on it for a great period of time. Logging in one day and finding that you can't access your files because someone slapped £100,000 ransom on your system before they can give you your files back. It's a case of, right, well, what do I do now? And having a really robust cyber insurance protection policy can help you with that, because it can be very, very costly, if you haven't got a cyber insurance solution, to basically go out and get those specialists in yourself, which can run into many, many thousands of pounds. Or you're left with an ultimatum, really, where you might have to walk away from your game. If your hacker decides to delete your files and you haven't been prudent enough to have suitable backups, you're kind of stuck, and obviously you don't really want to be in that position at all. So, yeah, just thinking about your insurances, thinking about all eventualities that could happen to you, even if you feel they're remote, they do happen, and it's just being aware basically and speaking to people.
One thing I will just say, as I'm sure most of you are probably game developers and artists and people who create the games that maybe don't handle the business side. This sounds incredibly daunting, but I promise you, everyone out there is willing to give advice. You need to take every opportunity that is possibly available to you, whether it's to come to events like this, even myself taking the opportunity to come and actually talk at an event like this, or going to Develop Brighton, or going to EGX. Everyone at those events has been you in some regard. They've been a student who was trying to break into the industry, or someone who maybe didn't even have any sort of formal training and wanted to make video games, because who doesn't want to make video games? But take advice from everyone you possibly can. Not all of it is going to be great advice, and you'll find things being very contradictory, but it's all up to you what you add and what you don't add. People can always warn you about things, and it will really help your journey. Doesn't mean you're not going to fall into those traps, but just take the advice, talk to people, and let people talk to you as well. If they want to set up a meeting, just do it. What's the harm, You might not ever see them again, so I wouldn't worry too much about it.
So just moving again slightly forward on to scalability. Now, I know that you're working on your first game and that's yet to launch, but you are showcasing that at the weekend, as I understand it. When do you start to think about scaling, and what are the potential hazards for you personally for scaling?
Scalability is something that you always want to think about, but at the same time you never want to think about, because I don't know what's going to happen in a year or 2 years. No one does. And especially because we're just starting out, this is our first game, it's difficult to start planning for a second one when you haven't even got the first one done yet. But when you go to publishers and you do your pitches, they want to see how you're going to build your studio. They don't just want to publish your game, they want to publish it because of you, and they believe in your company. And so they want to know where you're going to go. So in terms of us, we don't really think too far ahead at the moment, especially because we're just beginning. But we know our end goal. We want to be one of those big studios showcasing their games to everyone and letting massive audiences play our stories and the worlds that we create. Obviously not feasible yet, but that's what we want to do. And that really comes across when we talk about our game. And that's something really important. But what we don't think about at the moment is scalability in terms of building up the company. It is really easy when you get money in to go, okay, I need someone to do audio, I need someone to do programming, I need someone to do characters. And you hire all these people too quickly. And then one day you end up losing all your money and you can't pay them anymore. So you need to really think carefully about how fast you expand. And in terms of getting studio spaces, at the moment, my whole team works remotely. Obviously, that can be difficult because you live in the same place that you work. Never really works. But if you create that good balance, it can do. At the moment, because we are all remote all over the country, getting a studio space just isn't an option. But a lot of teams would look at doing that. And again, it's something that you have to consider for yourself and for your company, whatever's going to work best for you. But it doesn't mean that working remote and keeping your team really small for 2-3 years is going to impact you. So many people have done it and so many people will continue to do it, so you can do it as well.
And I think, Abbygale, that is exactly the right way to think about scaling. It's not to say I need to be in a headlong rush to reach that goal of where we hope to be in 5 years. It's to say, based on the funding we've obtained now, what can we do? What's realistic? Where can we get the most from spending that money without just rushing to get somewhere we're just not going to get with what we have available. And I think any investor, any publisher is going to want to see that you've got a solid business plan for the money they're potentially willing to give you before they let you have a penny of it. Because if the plan is give us £100,000 and this is the vertical slice we have, this is the demo we have so far, give us your confidence and we'll see where it goes. No one's going to sign up to that because they're going to say, no, I need to know that I trust the team. I need to know that the project is something they believe in and that this team is the right team to achieve it. And that goes back to the point around working with your friends and your family. It's making sure you're working with the right people for the job. And that can be a really difficult conversation in and of itself. But if you're trying to make a game and you're trying to make it successful and you're trying to also then run a successful business, you need to work on this idea that you can't be carrying along people for the ride, particularly if they are shareholders, directors in the company. You need to have confidence in them that they are delivering and the ability to say if they're not, that there is a route out, and it's a friendly route out, it's a civil one, but it doesn't detonate the company in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. You can always think ahead. That's exactly what you need to do. You guys are probably going to be graduating soon or thinking about your future after university. So do think ahead, do plan for the future, dream whatever you want, but also just be prepared and start your company with a good base, because it becomes a lot harder once you're a bigger established company to sort out those contracts and those insurances that you haven't already got. So start out with a good base and then skies ahead.
Yeah, Rob, is there any advice for indie companies that are maybe 2-3 years in that are ready to scale up? What sort of advice could you sort of share on businesses that are ready to make the jump?
Yeah, happy to. I think a lot goes into how they've got there. But if you've been able to maintain a lot of control in your business by sort of just self-funding and pursuing public grants and funding where you can, that's going to give you a lot more options if you're then potentially looking at investors who might want to take a share of your business, because you've got more of your business to potentially give away to that investor. But different options in terms of funding and growth come with different opportunities but different risks. An equity investor who wants to invest in your business and take some ownership stake in it is going to want some level of control over the day-to-day business, but is also going to want to have an exit strategy, whether that's 3 to 5 years down the line, selling the company, or having some sort of growth plan that leads to them getting a return on their investment. Whereas a publisher is going to say, I'm less worried about the business, but I'm more interested in the IP and the longevity of that. Is it a an area where you've got potential for future games, DLC, other content that I can monetize in other ways, and therefore I want to license that in the long term? Or are they just focused on what's there now? I think a lot of it just depends on what kind of studio you want to be and what games you want to make. And the best thing you can do is keep your options open, so that when you are coming to those other parties to talk about the funding they've got available or the opportunities they can give to your studio, you have lots of options, but you also know the ones that are right for you.
Just from my perspective, obviously you might have an insurance policy that covers most of your needs when you're first starting out. But as and when you do scale up, it is really important that you sort of keep your insurance policies up to date with the size of your business as you scale up as well, because it is quite easy to forget about the extra sort of £10,000-20,000 worth of computer equipment that you've had installed in your new premises and things like that. And you don't want to be remembering that at the time of claim, because then you do start to have the issues of underinsurance being applied by the claims team at the insurance company, and that can get quite messy. So it's really just having us in the back of your mind again, really, is when you scale up, please do just reach out to your insurance specialist and grow, basically. Remind yourself of what you've got. Always look back at your itemised lists, because you will pick up things naturally. You will get odd bits of new equipment that you don't necessarily think to tell us about, but they soon mount up. So keep regular lists, keep in regular contact with us, and update your sums insured, basically.
Again, this is a lot of business advice to take on, and this is what we're here for. We want to help you actually start the company. You know how to make a game, but don't forget that at the heart of all of this, you guys are all gamers. You all want to make these games that you've got dreams and passions about. And so make sure you take time for yourselves as well as focusing on this business. When I first started, at my role in the company is I do all of the business, but I also do the majority of the programming as well. So that's like 2 hats. I work almost 60 hours a week, maybe even more sometimes. And at the beginning, I was focusing solely on the business. It's kind of what you have to do. You don't really have a choice in that if you want to make it successful and be ready for the future. But it really drained on me because I don't know business. I was learning it all as I was going. It was always a case of, is this right? Am I actually doing what I need to do right now? And I could never tell. But after a little while, I just had to take a step back and say, I'm a programmer. At the end of the day, I want to program. So you have to take time between doing this business and making the game and doing what you love, and actually programming, getting hands-on with the project and not just the future goals and the future scalability of your company.
What do you found has helped the most to learn the business side of things? Because you are very confident with the programming, very competent, but what's been the best help for you in building that knowledge?
I'd say the best thing for me is, again, taking advice from everyone. So when I started, I knew I wanted to make a company. It was my goal, and I started it before I had even graduated from university. And the main thing that we were looking for at the beginning was the transfuser program. I already had a full team of 6 for that program, but I still went to all the events that the university held to kind of network and build your team. And at one of those events, the business department of the university was there and only made a very brief comment. But immediately I was like, no, I need to go here. I know how to make this game. I've got the team for the transfuser, but how do I actually make the company now? It's something I had no idea. So I went immediately up to the business team, and they helped me every step of the way from starting up the company. And then from there, we were lucky enough to get into the transfuser program, where they give you loads of help, and they take you to events like Develop Brighton, which is where I met Colin, and I started to learn about insurance. And I was talking to these other people who had started their own companies or were in some form of like legal or insurance. And that is really how I learn, is just to keep going ahead, getting advice from everyone, whether they're in the games industry or not, because everyone knows something. Again, take advice as much as you want or as little as you want, but just take something out of it. And you learn by listening to other people.
Sorry, yeah, we're back on again. Sorry, The help and guidance is there. There is a misconception sometimes that, if you reach out to a big firm, a law firm, an insurance broker, that's always going to attract fees and payments and things like that. Now, obviously, there is a line. Let's be honest, there is. But if it is just a case of you want a soundboard, you want to throw some ideas at us and see what the ramifications are of a certain action, or I've got this. How should I go about it? That's what we're there for. So it is a conversation. Pick up the phone to us. Have the chat, because we're more than happy to help you, as I say. So.
And I'll add on to that. You'll be surprised how many people are willing to do it for free. Obviously, not completely cover your company, but just have a phone call or a meeting and just talk to you for half an hour, and to teach you a little bit about it. And then you probably will end up having to pay some money. It's just the way it is. But you can learn, and in some ways you can do a lot of it yourself at the very beginning. But you have to reach out and you have to ask, hey, can I have a chat with you? And can we talk? What are your prices? It's a difficult thing to ask someone, especially because for myself, at least, I always feel like I'm going to get blindsided and they're going to charge me loads of money, but they really don't. Everyone is there to help you, and at the end of the day, they want your business, and so they're going to help you as much as they can to get that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I can speak for most professional advisors when in this sector that it's a journey you're on with a lot of the businesses you work with. No studio starts off the ground with a multi-million-pound sort of legal or professional services budget. They get there over time, but people need a lot of help from the start. And if you suffocate a business early on by saying, here's the 50 different things you need, and you need them all on day one, and there's not a single thing you could survive with, they could spend all their money with that with you, and they would not actually launch a successful game, and they would get nowhere. And I think there's always a bit of a symbiotic relationship between trying to help businesses grow and develop while also providing the services they need at a price that's reasonable and realistic for the size they're at, and that. There are plenty of different firms of accountants, insurers, lawyers that are linked through UKIE and other organisations. So there is always a good way of sort of finding someone that's linked to the sector and has that knowledge to be able to help.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention AI as well. I know we touched on earlier on that people do have tight budgets. AI is a tool, and a lot of people are using it and doing things themselves. Now, AI can only go so far in giving you information. We are specialists for a reason. AI is not going to know everything, at least not yet. So, picking up the phone to a specialist and having that personal, interactive conversation with someone who actually truly knows your area, your specialist niche as well is still vitally important. So whilst AI is there as a tool, some will use it, but we are still here and we can give you that personal insight and understanding of your sector. AI doesn't yet know it all. So that's my take on it anyway. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, and I'm seeing increasing numbers of ChatGPT created contracts. It does have a tendency to make things up. It also has a bit of a tendency to, if you plug a contract into it and say, can you review this and tell me all the key points, it will make things up, and it will also it will pick the things that it thinks is most important based on the information it has available, which any AI chatbot is only as good as what goes into it. And given that most of the knowledge it's scraping off the internet is free, it's not necessarily taking in the best advice available, or necessarily a very good cross-section of the different contracts that are available. So it's always worth checking these things with someone else, not necessarily relying on the first thing that comes out of, I'm sure ChatGPT, Perplexity, any of the others.
So just in summary of everything that we've kind of wrapped up, because I do want to allow some time for questions, as we said at the top. For anyone who is thinking about setting up a games development studio, what would you say to them? What are the considerations? When would you do it and when wouldn't you?
I would start as soon as possible. Some people go into the industry and then start the company. That's a completely fair way to do it, but you can't give all your time. My team and I are very lucky. Our parents are currently happy to support us, and so that allows us the freedom to actually work on this full time. And I understand some of you aren't going to have that, but start as soon as you can. There's never a wrong time to start. But whilst you've got the opportunity and whilst you're at uni, this is the perfect time. You're never going to meet more people in the industry who are very likely to join your team and are very likely to support you on your journey than you are right now. I even still talk to people in my collab groups and get them to help me on the project, make some characters for me, whatever I need. And they're more than willing to do it for very cheap most often because they know me. We've built a relationship. But I'd say my biggest advice for starting a company is that it's not easy. And people might tell you it's easy, people might tell you it's not. It's not easy. I work all the hours. I don't often switch off from work. Even when I'm away on holiday, I'm still on my phone messaging my team. Personally, I love that. My passion is gaming, and I've always wanted to make this company, so I am putting everything I possibly have into it. If you're not prepared to do that, find a business partner who will do that for you, or split the workload. There are people out there who will, and there are people out there who won't. You can always join a team as well if you'd rather just make the game and let the business side to someone else. But just remember that it's not easy, and you need to have passion and you need to have love for what you do. Because they always say that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. That's not true. you will work, but it's worth it. We went to Protoplay in Dundee, and it was the first time my team and I had really got the opportunity to work together and to combine all of these separate mechanics that we've been making into one game. And we stayed up that first night until 5 a.m. Working on this game, all in a little living room together, and we had so much fun, and it was such an amazing environment. And then we took it into Protoplay, and we had our stand. It was all set up with our pictures on it, and we had people come in, and we had people play our game, and we had people love our game. And that is something that is genuinely the most amazing feeling. You spent months working on this project, probably on your own, like your team might be remote, and so when you can combine it all and see what you've made, see the game that you've made, and people playing it, it's really rewarding. So don't let the hard moments drag you down. Don't let any failure or someone not responding to your pitch deck or you not getting a grant, don't let that drag you down. If you really want to do this, you are going to do it. Take a step back, look how far you've come, and look how many people are already loving your work.
Well said. Questions? Is there any? Yeah, we've got a microphone there. Cool, brilliant.
Thank you. Hi, thank you for your talk, by the way, and your tips was really helpful. My question is more on the management side of the business. So how would you manage investors and share? And when you do it through a contract, when you write the contract, do you need a solicitor to check the contract before you actually give it to the investors?
I will start this, but then I will hand over to you, Rob, because you are definitely better answer to that. I have not had a solicitor review my contracts. I do not have the money for that, and that is just the way it is. My contracts have all been reviewed by the university. They are willing to help you make the contracts and then review them for you. Obviously, they are not solicitors themselves. They can't give you the best advice, but they can give you a start. And then as soon as you've got the funding, going to a solicitor is your best option, and then you're reviewing the contracts even further from there. But if you don't have the funding, go to whoever you can at first. But yeah, Rob can help you more with that.
Yeah, I'm not going to contradict what Abbygale said. It would be a bit turkeys voting for Christmas if I said no. Don't come talk to me or anyone like me. But what I would say is that having something in writing is better than not having anything at all, generally speaking. But also that. And any sophisticated investor is likely to have their own representation. They're likely to have either some form of in-house team that prepare their documents for them or some external solicitors. So it's always good to then have your own independent advice, wherever that's sourced from, to be able to take a bird's eye view at it and say, is this actually in your best interests, or is this particular investor sweet talking you into a deal that's maybe not the best thing right now, or maybe it isn't. There's some things in there that aren't particularly market standard that you wouldn't see otherwise. But it all does come up against budget, and you've got to consider these things in the round as to what the size of the investment is and what you can afford to spend out of the money you have now or the money you have coming in from the investment on those legal fees. But I would say that generally, as I said before, a lot of advisors are prepared to take a view and make arrangements that suit the size of the business and the funds that are available so that you can get the advice you need.
So, first of all, thank you. Those are really good tips. And I just wanted to double check. So you said at first you started the game, then the business. If you could go back, would you still keep that same order? Would you start on branding before both? How would you assess the order you'd go through?
So it's obviously quite difficult to answer. I'm very happy with the way my company has gone. There could have been very big slip-ups, which we're lucky to have avoided. I wish going into it I had some of the advice that Rob and Colin have provided here. I didn't know that, and so going into it I felt a bit rushed in giving shares to people, and I didn't make contracts immediately, which luckily enough my team were more than happy to still sign them a bit later on down the line. So I wish I did have that, but at the same time, when you go into an indie games company, especially one that you've just started, you're not going to have money, and that's just the way it is. You're not going to want to give all of your money over to it either. So going in from the game, especially with a team of friends, making sure everyone's passionate about it, I'm never going to regret going in with that first, because my team love our project, I love our project. I would say it's probably worth doing side by side with each other, if you can, rather than leaving one after the other. But just remember, you know your team best, you'll know your friends best. As long as you've got some sort of formal agreement in place that's written down as well, just have fun. That's the best advice I can offer. And whatever you need to do, that's how you need to do it. We can offer as much advice. You're still going to have slip-ups. I still have slip-ups that people have told me about 50 times. You have to work through that with your team and your group, and it's just the way of the company.
Hello, thank you for the talk. I have a question regarding when you're looking for extra support, maybe from a programmer, 3D artist. How are you ensuring those people you hire are the right people, and you're also getting, best value for money?
Absolutely. That is a big consideration, especially when it's your first project. It's your baby, you want to make sure it's perfect. This is going to sound quite bad, but the industry is not in a very good state. So starting up a company is one of the best things you can do, because people are willing to work for just experience and just a little bit of money. A lot of my team for contractors, not like the core team, I met through uni, through doing seeing their GradX projects and seeing them in collab. And so I knew their work. But other than that, I would look at people's portfolios like you'd expect someone to look at yours. Look at people's portfolios. Does it match your game? Can they talk about the specific genre? So my game is an RPG. I want to hire people that actually like RPGs and play RPGs. But at the end of the day, you're the only one who can decide what is good for your game. And so you do need to pick and choose who is the best option for that. But again, loads of people are willing to do it for not much money. So just reach out, talk to your friends, talk to people you've met that you think are really good. Even if they're not going to do it full time, they might give you a week of work, and that's more than anything, really. So it's really just up to you.
Right, and that's all we have time for. Thank you very much. And that wraps up our Game On business advice, helping you set up an indie studio session. And to those future indie studio heads, good luck. We'll be back.